Hello everyone, and welcome to Dutch Greybeard. This is going to be a 2-in-1 video. I'm going to do a book haul, even though I recently made one. This new book haul is not because I bought so many new books, but because this is likely going to be my last book haul for quite some time. The reason for that is my other item. I will embark on another Read What You Own challenge. Let's begin with the latter. In March of 2024, I started my first Read What You Own challenge. For those of you who are not familiar with this, it's a challenge where you commit yourself to reading a number of books you already own without buying any new books in the meantime. One of the more famous booktubers, Ollie from the channel Criminoli, has done this challenge 4 or 5 times now. He is such a fast reader that with each challenge he can commit to reading 100 books already on his shelves. This normally takes him about 3 to 4 months, if I'm not mistaken. One could call him the champion of the Read What You Own challenge. Last year I set my goal at 50 books, which in my reading tempo may have taken me about a whole year to complete. Progress was irritatingly slow. In November I felt entitled to call it quits. To do that, I bent the rules I had set for myself a little bit. The one thing I absolutely want to avoid at any time is that reading becomes something of a chore, or at least a less than positive activity. And with my challenge, I was getting dangerously close to losing my enjoyment in reading. What began to frustrate me along the way was that there seemed to be no end to the challenge. Every time I checked how many more books I was away from the end, I felt disappointed. I even started to adjust my reading choices to smaller books so that I would get to that goal of 50 books faster. Not good. So, how did I bend the rules? During the 9 months of the challenge, I had read 33 books, which is 17 less than the number I was supposed to read. But Ollie himself came to the rescue. In one of his videos, he pointed out that counting the number of books is not altogether an honest measure. One could argue that a book of normal size has about 250 pages. So I did the math, dividing the almost 15,000 pages I had under my belt with 250. The reassuring number that came out of this calculation was 60. With a clear conscience, I could say that I had over-delivered on my promise, and I could end my challenge. The funny thing is that the not buying new books part didn't really bother me that much. Of course, I wanted to buy books, but instead of actually purchasing new titles, I simply put them on my Amazon wishlist, which is a sensible thing to do anyway, because I find that time helps me in separating the wheat from the chaff. Many books that I thought I desperately wanted to buy, I ended up deleting from my wish list later on. And that is what I'm going to do again for the coming 6 months. For my second Read What You Own challenge, I am setting my own rules. I do not want to focus on the number of books or pages I'm reading. To me, the quantity side of it is the least relevant element of my reading experience. It distracts me from the book itself. So instead, I am setting myself a goal in time, which is 6 months. The next half year, I will not be buying any new books, at least not if I can help it, of course. During my last challenge, I illegally bought 4 books, 3 of which had no urgency whatsoever. If a reading project or a buddy read forces my hand, I will buy, of course, but for now I do not see those up ahead. I do really want to buy the Dutch translation of Haruki Murakami's latest novel in the paperback edition, but I won't. That book will no doubt still be available after my challenge has ended. And it is not as if there's any danger of me running out of books to read. Just to give you an idea of how many unread books I have at my disposal right now, In my preferred genre, fantasy, I have no less than 186 books that are impatiently waiting to be picked up. Next to that, I have about 20 unread thrillers, some 10 science fiction books, and 50 literary fiction and non-fiction books that I really want to read at some point. On top of that, I have some 110 books of literary and non-fiction that are located at the bottom of my TBR. So, with more than 350 books at my disposal, I believe that I'm safe for now. Of course, it is fun to add a little element of competition to this challenge. I want to try to read at least 30 books during these 6 months, or 7,500 pages. This is not putting too much pressure on myself, but it is more fun instead of just simply watching the hours go by. So, starting a couple of days ago on March 15, I will read what I own until September 15. Wish me luck. I would not be the Dutch greybeard if I hadn't taken advantage of my closing window of opportunity. Knowing that I would start my second challenge, I quickly placed my final online order for a couple of series I honestly believe I cannot live without these coming 6 months. Which brings me to my final book haul. The first 2 books were a gift from my good friend BJ Minton, who had discovered my Amazon wishlist. He kindly sent me these 2 books. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, which I'm currently reading, and I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. I heard many good things about this book, so I'm quite sure I'll get to this one fairly soon. Because of a convincing recommendation from Rabin of the channel Only the Best Fantasy Novels, I bought Lud in the Mist by Hope Merlis, if I pronounce that correctly. This is another attempt of mine to delve into pre-Tolkien fantasy. According to Rabin, it is without a doubt the best pre-Tolkien fantasy novel out there. Next, I bought a series I have been wanting to possess since I started my journey into fantasy. Practically all the booktubers I watch are lyrical about the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. And even though I have more than enough fantasy to read, I just couldn't resist adding these 4 chunky books to my collection, starting with The Grace of Kings, The Wall of Storms, The Veiled Throne, and the closing volume, Speaking Bones. Don't really know when I will get to these, but maybe this year. Who knows? I really hope so. My final purchase was an impulsive buy. During my buddy read of The Name of the Wind, BJ mentioned that Red Sister by Mark Lawrence showed striking similarity with the Rothfuss book. I will make a different video about The Name of the Wind, but suffice it now to say that I enjoyed it so much that anything that came anywhere in the vicinity of it, I had to buy instantly. So I bought the entire Ancestor trilogy, trusting that all 3 books would be to my liking. So, read what you own challenge and a book haul. Thank you very much for watching this video. Until we meet again at Dutch Greybeard.